Good morning. This is Tim Miller, the CEO of Liquid CMO, and I'm sitting this morning on March 6th, 2013 with Renee, and she's one of our clients. And everybody always hears me from the background asking questions, but nobody sees what I look like. So this is myself, Tim Miller, and my friend Renee Thibodeau.
Isn't he cute?
Hello, good morning. Okay, so here we go. We're going to get the story of Renee Thibodeau, and we're all going to talk loud so we can actually hear it on the video. Renee, why don't you tell us what it was like? Renee came to us and she was in our clinical study in 2010, and so why don't we get some history on you, Renee, and tell us what it was like. You had fibromyalgia and what it was like before you started the Liquid CMO.
Okay, I didn't have any symptoms. I was pretty athletic and busy all the time, on the go, and I had an automobile accident in December of 1990. And I was in the hospital it was a T-bone, and I was in the hospital for 3 months and had to learn how to walk again, and it was pretty traumatic. And after the accident, I started seeing odd symptoms. And so I would tell my doctor, and he would just smile at me like I'd lost my mind. And finally, after a couple of
What kind of
years,
odd symptoms did you have?
well, my skin would burn. I still remember the first symptom was my skin would hurt, and I would say the hairs on my arms hurt, the hairs on my legs hurt, and he didn't understand what that meant. And then it would start burning, and I would get a muscle spasm, and I didn't know to call it a muscle spasm. I'd just say all of a sudden my spine, my back would hurt or my leg. So there were multiple symptoms, a lot of them he just didn't understand.
Mm-hmm.
And finally, after about 3 years, which would be 92, 93, I went in for my daughter to my physician and said, well, he was removing a mole from her. I said, look at my hands, they look like little sausages. I weighed about 110 then, and my hands had swollen up so bad.
Your
and
fingers had swollen up?
Right, and I couldn't close my hands, and it was a doctor's clinic, so he just walked me over to a rheumatoid arthritis doctor.
Right.
And that guy poked around for a while, and then he told me what he suspected I had, and he said back then it was called this thing called fibromyalgia. And he said, there's nothing I can do for you. He said, it's not going to kill you, but you will die from it, and he gave me a pamphlet. Well, I didn't have the internet or anything back then, so I read the pamphlet and thought, holy cow. And so I just dealt with it.
So when he was poking around, he was doing the tender point examination?
I believe so. Back
Okay.
then I didn't understand any of that. But because of that car accident, I was scheduled to have massages. And he had said, and I never went, because it would just take more time, and I just felt like I'd spent enough time on this car accident. So he had said massage could help, so I went ahead and implemented that treatment, and it did give me relief. And the deep muscle massage gave me relief.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was having the muscle spasms, and they would identify those, and I had to find a specific massage therapist. I couldn't just go to anyone.
Right.
And through time, that's what I did for several years, and I would gain freedom. I had to drink a lot of liquids, and then after the massage, I'd be very sick. And so the more liquids I drank, the less sick, and I know now what that was. They were removing all those acids out of my muscles.
Releasing toxins.
And what I would do is when I'd feel better, I'd stop going, and then it'd start up again. So we went through a cycle of that for several years, and I don't think it was until 2001 I finally said I can't do this on my own anymore, because I had to work, I had to support my daughter, and so I finally went to a doctor, and that was the first time I agreed to take medication, and it was an antidepressant. I think the first one was Prozac. So I went several years with nothing, just trying to wing it and get through it.
Sure.
And I had met a
So
doctor.
you're in horrible pain and
Oh,
he's
yeah.
giving you Prozac.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it really didn't help, but it did kind of help me sleep. And then there came a time I couldn't sleep either.
Right.
Because the pain in my feet would be so bad. And so I went back, they gave me another one, then I'd have nightmares, and then they gave me another one, and at some point, I think within a couple of years, years, it was like, I'm not doing this anymore. You know, it's not helping. It's not taking the pain away. So I tried the massages again. I tried everything I knew. I not taking the opiates, giving me a pain pill for muscle spasms wasn't going to work, and I knew it.
So why were you not taking the opiates?
Because I'm intolerant of that.
So your system can't handle
It
opiates.
makes me horribly sick.
Okay.
And I
That's a
wasn't
bad
willing-
combination. You're in horrible pain and you can't take any pain medication.
Right, and you can't be sick because then you tense up. I couldn't be in cold. I couldn't be. My life just changed drastically through the years, and I finally met a doctor that did the deep muscle, and he told me, which was very important to me without anything, and that was that I had to look at fibromyalgia as a bully. And every morning I had to know it was going to try to beat me up. And I had to fight it. And that got me through. But by 2006, it wasn't getting me through anymore. It was horrible. And I had decided that GPs at this point were not what I needed. I needed an internal.
GPs, general practitioners.
Right. I needed an internist. And then.
So at this point, what medications, what pharmaceuticals?
Well, I was on some antidepressant when I went to her, but by then I had been in the hospital several times over the last few years with heart attack symptoms, stroke symptoms, several different life-threatening symptoms, just to find out it was fibromyalgia. Just to have those doctors, some look at me with a little bit of sympathy, but most looking at me like I was nuts.
Sure. So you
And
had
said,
the upper left hand, left side chest pain that so many get.
I had stroke symptoms. They were so bad, this vein over here was bulging, and my daughter was scared. The headache was horrible.
So you had headaches too.
Oh, yeah. Everything you could have, I had, and it was horrible. And on top of it, my skin would burn, and my feet and legs, I could hardly walk. And then I'd have spasms, and sometimes I would multispasm. And my friends would joke, she's falling and she can't get up, because I'd bend over to dry my hair, and my whole back would just start spasming. I had 5 or 6 of them at one time, and they had to take me in and get that.
Sure.
But I ended up saying that. I ended up cutting my hair really short because I couldn't manage my hair. But
Didn't you say that the National Institute of Health wanted you for their clinical studies?
they had asked. I had contacted them initially because they would advertise it. I was in Texas.
I see.
But they couldn't guarantee that they weren't going to give me placebo. And I wasn't going to risk it. I'm not going to risk having any more pain. It was all I could do to get up and function. And I've been blessed to have a job where I could come in a little bit later because I stayed late. Once I was there, I could stay.
Right.
But I would go and I would lay down under my desk sometimes just to sleep a little bit because I couldn't sleep. But when I went to this internist, she got me to a neurologist because then I started having symptoms of MS. And I started having symptoms of lupus. And the tests were saying that I didn't have it, but I had all the symptoms. And they were good doctors. They thoroughly checked me, so I know I don't have those things now. But we were concerned. And the diagnosis was always, we don't like throwing it in this pot, but we believe it's fibromyalgia. And there's nothing we can do. There's nothing we can do. So I had surrendered, except that she gave me a medication called Neurontin and said, because you're symptomatic, let's try this. And Neurontin worked for a while because when I take it within a half an hour, I was sleepy. And I could go to bed and sleep. And I think that's what carried me. As long as I could sleep, I could get through the day.
Sure.
But the sadness was still there. I feel like I've had sadness that I've recognized since 2001.
Well, your life's been, basically taken over by this this disease.
Well, I couldn't travel. I had a daughter to raise. We couldn't do anything. My poor child, when I hear people talk about their children, it just makes me tear up because I know what it did to my daughter. She's an adult now, but I know what it did. She had to run the house. I couldn't.
Right.
And I looked fine. So, dating, all that, we don't do that stuff. But, so I took the Neurontin for a while, and I ended up in a office with a full body spasm, and she didn't know what to do with me. And so she called the neurologist, and they communicated, and I laid there, and they tried to work it out, and they put me on this other medication in 2006,
Okay.
which was Lyrica.
Okay.
And the first day I took it, they gave you a week back then.
Mhm.
This was in 2006 as well. So Neurontin didn't last that long. I took the Lyrica, and within a few days, I was free. It was like, oh, this is a miracle. Except within a couple of months, I didn't notice it, but my personality started changing. And I started getting angry.
We hear this a lot.
Well, and it wasn't good. And between the two medications, I put on 40 pounds, which I didn't mind because I thought food too. I started eating a lot of sugars and carbs and stuff because I think that they were comfort. I don't know why I did it.
Comfort foods.
I loved grease and sugar and flour. So I took the Neurontin, and it worked for about 6 months, but I had no choices after that.
Right.
There
So
was
the
no
Neurontin you
choice.
started in early 2006. About 6 months later, you're in a full body spasm.
I'm still having pain now.
And then they put you on the Lyrica, so now you're taking both of them.
No, I
They took you off the Neurontin.
Yes,
Okay.
and put me on the Lyrica.
Okay.
And so I called because by then I'd moved back here to Arizona from Texas, and I called, and she goes, there's nothing. She talked to the neurologist as well, and they
Okay.
couldn't come up with anything. And she goes, if you can tolerate it, if it's giving you any relief, just keep taking it. So I did. And my moods kept getting worse and worse, and I was ranting and raving, and I'm still in pain, and by 10 o'clock I'm hobbling around work. How I didn't lose my job, I don't know. I don't know. And then through time, I got a doctor here, and they doubled the dose. And that's when I realized the Lyrica. Now see, that's when I realized the Lyrica was making me crazy, because I was also having thoughts of I didn't want to do this anymore. There wasn't anything for me. I can't take the pain medication. I can't take muscle relaxers. There's no place for me. And I'm so miserable, and I'm making the people around me miserable. I can't just be miserable quietly. And so I was thinking of some pretty severe solutions for myself. And my daughter was an adult by then. And I'm watching the TV. In the meantime, I'm not sleeping. My legs are hurting. I
Sure.
can't walk. My spine. I get these muscle spasms, and I don't
So
know.
this is some times passed by 2006. Where are we now? When you're
Well, I
basically the
kinda
Lyrica
jumped,
looks
yeah.
like it's stopped working.
And I'm back to having muscle spasms, and I get this one, and even now, if I pull wrong, I get this almost like a body memory, and I get scared. There's a muscle, and I call it under my wing bone.
Under your
And
scapula.
And
Okay.
it's really hard to get to work it out for even a massage therapist.
Sure.
And if it pulls, it's like, oh, it's going to happen, and it doesn't. But back then, if it happened, I was down, because then it would affect my neck. I couldn't move, and then I'm walking funny, then my feet gets worse. It's just a horrible cycle. In between, my skin's burning, and it'll burn in my leg. Then it'll go to my top of my leg, and the worst is when it burns on my hiney, because I can't sit. And that's what I do for a living, is sit, so I'm so uncomfortable.
Sure.
But it does. It feels like somebody put a hot fire on me. But
Okay. So now you said you're watching TV. It's
well, I'm at a
2000
jumping off place, and my boss knows it, because him and I have talked by then, because I'm being called in.
right.
And he's saying, why, you can't behave like this. You can't yell. You can't yell at people just because you don't like what they're doing. And I told him I couldn't help it. I broke down. I was so lucky. I just been so blessed. And he said, you've got to do something. And I was at a jumping off place, and I think he knew that I was contemplating. I just think he knew. And he said, you've got to do something. I'm getting ready one day, and I'm drying my little stubby hair, and I hear the word fibromyalgia come out of the TV, and it's, now I've got the hair dryer on. How did I hear that? But I did. And, I didn't even talk about the fog. Forget about the fog. I couldn't remember where I was. If I was in Texas, I think I was in Arizona, I would just say off the wall, which I kind of do anyway, but it was worse, because it was almost like I didn't know where I was. or what I was
You
talking
had the
about.
fibro fog.
I guess that's, I've learned
Right.
so much because what I had decided early on was the less I knew, the better I would be with this. Because then I feel like I was waiting for the next thing to happen. So anyway, I hear this, and thank God for those DVRs that backed up.
Right.
I backed it up, and I saw this guy look like an old hippie, and he's talking about fibromyalgia and how they're doing a study, and it's this liquid, and I'm thinking, I wonder. So I went to work, and I wrote everything down, and I went to work and I talked to my boss, who had become by then, and he's left the company since, a spiritual advisor for me because of some of the other struggles with that stuff. And I asked him, and he goes, what do you got to lose? And I said, nothing. I have everything to gain and nothing to lose. He goes, then do you want to take some vacation time? So he gave me time. I had used all my time up, and I had 3 weeks plus 7 days, so I had used all that time up. And he said, I'll give you the time. He goes, go ahead and call that number. Well, I called the number, and as you know, it's kind of his history. I was scared.
Right.
I didn't know if it was a scam. I couldn't afford it to be a scam emotionally, and I knew it. And I was afraid to even stop taking the stuff that I knew was killing me.
So you're talking about the clinical study.
Yes.
Right. Right.
And the sweet little lady, the sweet woman on the other end, I'm ranting and raving and saying, well, I used to work for, I used to work for this company, and I know people in the industry, and if this is a scam, I will be calling anybody and everybody I know. I'll go all the way up to Viacom, because it was Channel 15 it was on.
Right.
And she just let me rant and rave, and then she said, so did you want to come in around 3? So sweet. And it did. It made me smile. But I was so mean by then. I was just so mean, and for no reason sometimes. And then so ashamed of it. I had the awareness, but I couldn't control it by then. And so I went in, and I talked to Dr. Dave, and he told me what it will do, that I will have a 4-day healing crisis, and that I asked him about the Lyrica, if I could get off of it. And he said, yeah, but I have to wean you off of it. You cannot. And what was wonderful is he didn't say I had to stop taking anything. I didn't have to do anything but not drink coffee or smoke cigarettes or nicotine 3 hours before and 3 hours after. Well,
Right.
that's okay. I'll take it at 10. I'll lay down at 7 and kind of doze if I can. Then I don't drink my coffee or smoke, and then I'll take it and go to bed.
Right.
Well, what happened was it made me thirsty. So I did what he told me to do. I'm not a fool. If I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do it as instructed.
Right. So
And-
now you're involved in the clinical study, and you have your CMO.
Yeah, and I'm taking it, and it's horrible. But what I found was that what you had said to me, because you'd asked me to call you every day, what I had found was what you said was right. The acidity was so high in my system that when I took that stuff, it was, and then I'd drink all this water. I tried doing it with juice, and you said, don't do it with juice, but it helps. So
Yeah,
I take
yeah.
a piece of bread, and I drink all this water, and what
Right.
I found is it made me really thirsty, which was a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so I took the time off. I started it on April 1st because I thought that was appropriate, April Fool's Day, just in case.
Right.
Anyway, so I started taking it, and the first day that I took it, I thought it was horrible. You guys laugh and say it's a healing crisis. Renee, it's a healing crisis. I call it a pain crisis, and I don't want to scare anybody, but it did. And what happened was it seemed to be like it funneled, and it hit the worst spot first. And the worst spot was that wing bone, that muscle under my wing bone. And that thing spasmed up, and it spasmed up for several days. And I would lay in bed, thank God I lived alone, because I'd lay in bed and go, oh. But I was able to sleep, which was normally I couldn't sleep. It hurt so bad I didn't know if my feet hurt or not. But I was drinking a lot of water and sleeping. And
Water's
I slept
necessary
a lot.
to flush the system, to flush the toxins out of the system.
Lucky me, I accidentally did the right thing.
Yeah.
But that was horrible for 3 days. But I could sleep, so how horrible was it? I just remember it was horrible. And then I was kind of weaning myself off of that Lyrica because he said I could, but he told me how I had to do it.
Right.
And so I didn't want to take that anymore. And so I think like after that, then it went to my neck. And when it goes to my neck, it's like, oh, and I was whining and crying about my neck. I'm so glad I was alone. How embarrassing. And I kept drinking the water and sleeping. And it was funny because I kept thinking the liquid CMO was doing that to me. I think it was my body was just starting to heal and I was tired. You know, I don't know what it was. I
Sure.
could have been a God thing. But then it went to another spot. I don't remember, but it kind of worked its way from the worst to the next worst, then to the next, and then it went all over my body. I just felt like I had the flu again, like I used to.
Okay.
But that was almost like the last thing. And yeah, I don't want anybody to misunderstand. Every day I woke up like I had a bad flu. Now when I wake up with that flu, I call in sick because I'm sick. But I used to, you know,
Sure.
think of that stuff when it's happening. And for a while, I know you had to tolerate me saying, "I think it's back," because I had a cold or something.
I remember.
But the odd thing is on the 6th day, I think had my neighbor not been badgering me and bothering me like he was, he thinks he's going to help me. And now that he knows I'm doing this study, he's really going to insert himself in this. And he kept coming to the door. "You want me to take your laundry?" Because anybody that has fibromyalgia knows laundry's really hard to do. And I would just go buy new sheets. I was fortunate enough to have a job where I could afford new sheets and then my daughter would come and change them.
So rather than wash the sheets, you just go buy new ones.
Yeah.
How many sets did you have?
Well, I still have them. I probably have about 20 sets.
Oh my God.
But I don't like all of them anymore, so I only use a certain. But I had this laundry, and so my neighbor said, "I'll take it to the laundromat. I want to help." And I said, "Okay." So I just pulled it all out, and he saw the big pile, and he said, "Well, are you going to separate it?" And I got mad at him because I thought he was going to help. I said, "Just go home. I'll separate it." So I sat on the floor. I'm thinking to myself, if I don't do this, he's going to keep knocking on my door and bothering me, and I don't want to keep getting up, so I'm going to do this. This is how grateful I am that people want to help me. I was mad about it. And so I sat on the floor, and I started separating laundry. This is the 6th day. And I'm separating the laundry, and after I got it all done, it's like, holy cow, and I had like 15 loads. I must have a lot of clothes, and I thought, well, I'm going to wash this. I don't want him to wash my underclothes. So I took the load, and I took it to the laundry room, and I put the load in. Didn't even think about it. It's not something I do, because I have that upstairs, downstairs thing, so I have to bend down, and the way it's in the laundry closet. So I did that, and since I was standing, I went over to the sink and started kind of organizing a few things, because I had a lot of dirty spoons.
In the kitchen.
In the kitchen, I had a lot of dirty spoons from the liquid CMO. So I started kind of picking things up and rinsing the spoons off, and I thought, well, I'll just do the dishes. So I put the dishes in, and I'm standing there, and I don't remember what the sequence was, but I'm thinking, you know, and I probably went to the bathroom and saw I had like gray from here to here, and I thought, well, you know, I do have some hair color, and I hadn't been able to color my hair. I had to go pay to have my hair colored because I couldn't hold my arms up,
Right.
and that's why I had my hair short too. But with it short, colored pretty easy, and I still had a box, and I think I bought the box. I don't know why I had a box, but anyway, I went in and I thought I ought to color my hair, so I colored my hair, and then I went in and put the load of laundry in the dryer and thought, well, I don't want him to wash these because these will get ruined. It was my good shirts. So I put those in. And then my girlfriend called. The day went on, and I didn't go late back down.
I wanted to ask a question. How long had it been when you had fibromyalgia? How long had it been since you'd colored your hair by yourself?
Oh, years. Several years. 3, 4. I had to pay for it all the time.
Sure.
Now I pay for it because it's a luxury.
Okay.
Anyway, so my friend calls. My friend calls and says to me, "How you doing?" And she's feeling bad. And I'm saying, "I don't know. You know, my shoulder, that hurt so bad." And I'm telling her all the bad things. But I started being funny about things. And she said, "Why are you laughing? You're making me laugh. You're being funny." I said, "Well, because I'm funny." And the next thing you know, I said, you know what I did? And I said, Marlene, I did the dishes. I did 3 loads of laundry. Holy crap. This stuff is working. And we started talking and laughing, and then we were laughing about some other stuff, and we were laughing about she had lost her husband. We were laughing about some silly stuff he had done. And it's like, holy cow. And I think that's when I called you and said, you're not going to believe this.
That's what I have here on these notes, that you were witchy with your friend. and that it had actually been 7 to 8 years since you had colored your hair. And you know, people complain about the liquid CMO being expensive. How much would you pay the hairdresser to color your hair?
Oh, even short?
Yeah.
Short boy cut?
Right.
Was about $45-50.
Okay, so you're doing that how often?
I do it now. Well, I try to have her trim it so you can't see the gray longer, but I still do it maybe every other month. I don't color my hair now because I don't want to.
So you're spending $90 every other month to color your hair.
I can now. Now I'm just lazy. Before I couldn't do it, and it's a treat for me now. Before it was I did it because I had to. I didn't have a choice.
Sure.
I really like having choices. If I want to lay down on Saturday and sleep all day, it's because I want to. It's not because I have to get the rest Saturday and Sunday so that I can try and make it to work Monday.
Sure.
And manage and then exhaust myself and then sleep Saturday. I couldn't travel. I couldn't get on an airplane.
Right. So what happened? We're at day 6 and you've just done 3 loads of laundry. You've colored your hair. You cleaned the kitchen. You separated 15 loads of laundry. You made your bed and changed the sheets. The notes.
Yeah, I did that too. I was amazed. I thought that was risky business doing that because you know how you have to bend and twist,
Sure,
and I thought
to get
you
the
have to
corners.
lift that heavy old mattress, and I did it, and I've been free ever since. So, with that, knowing the date
You
that
said
I went,
you said what? And I've been free ever since.
yes, I have been. I'm a free woman again. But so I've been free since I went on April Fool's Day. Who's the fool, right?
Right.
Since I would say April 6th.
April 6th of
2010.
2010, and we're at March 6th of 2013.
Yeah,
It's been almost 3
right
years.
away, yeah.
Wow.
Almost right away.
So
I
tell.
didn't travel. I couldn't wear high heels. I had to wear flats because I couldn't. I couldn't hold my foot like that.
Right.
And so I'd say my feet hurt, and the doctor would say, "Well, quit wearing high heels." So I'd wear flats. They still hurt. I wear high heels now.
I see this on Friday of that week.
Oh, I still remember.
You called
I was
Friday,
so excited.
and you said, "What do you?" And you said, "You won't believe what I'm doing today." And I remember. I said, "What? And you said, "I'm wearing high heels." Yeah, that was.
I dug in my closet because I had all my old lady shoes up front, and I wouldn't throw away the other shoes because I didn't want to. I mean, I threw away all my skinny clothes. I finally surrendered, but not my shoes. And because I kind of like shoes, so I wore a pair of my. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it, and I did it, and I wore them, and I've been wearing them ever since. Now I don't wear them every day because I'm 62 years old. I just don't wear them every day.
Sure.
But I wear them when I want, and again, that's that freedom. I have choices today. I can fly. My grandson was born by then, and I couldn't lift that little boy, and I wanted to. I just fell in love with him the minute I saw him.
Sure.
And I couldn't lift him. He'd have to sit next to me, and I'd want to just, hold him and love on him, and I couldn't. When I did this, by then my daughter had given birth to my granddaughter, and I could love her and lift Cody up and hold him and swing him around, and we played together. I have pictures at my desk where I'm on my hands and knees, and he's shoving stuff in my mouth, and I'm crawling around the floor playing with him. And those are things that remind me how grateful I am.
Wow.
So I fly now a lot. I work for an airline, so I'm able to do that. And it used to be I'd get on an airplane, and the minute they'd shut those doors, the pain would start in my feet and legs, and I would be so uncomfortable.
Compressing the cabin.
Yeah, I didn't know what was doing it, but I'd sit, and I know you can't see it, but I'd sit and go like this. And it would distract the pain. Of course, the people next to me would look at me like, Jesus.
Sure. So I wanted to ask you, and truly I don't know, I can't remember, I see here that you were taking the Lyrica and that you under the doctor's care got off of it.
Oh, right away.
Right, like a
Right
week or 2 weeks or.
Well, I kind of didn't do what the doctor said, but I don't recommend that to anybody. But I wanted off of it. The minute they doubled that dose, I knew the Lyrica was making me crazy. Well, I didn't want to be crazy anymore.
Okay.
And I didn't want to be mean anymore.
Sure.
And what I also found was I don't have thoughts of not being here anymore.
Nice. Well, it's in
fact, now I'm
the
kind of
number one
afraid
list
I
of
don't
side
want-
effects for Lyrica is suicide.
Well, I know after that, once I recognized it, now every commercial I see for drugs, I'd say, oh, they're saying that side effect, whatever it is.
Right.
You better believe it.
Sure.
But, you know.
So I don't know this either. How long did you stay on the full dose of liquid CMO?
Oh,
Where you took a tablespoon a day?
I think I just stopped doing that not even a year ago.
So you're
Or
on.
maybe a year and a half ago.
Okay.
But I tried the maintenance dose. And remember, we discovered that wasn't going to work.
So you're on. Yes, you
It
tried
did
that
not work.
6 or 8 months into it, and you.
No, it was 18 months.
Was it 18 months?
It was
Okay.
18 months because of the number of years I've been on it.
Okay.
And I tried it, and it was horrible. But then I probably went we'd have to do the numbers. But it's probably only been about a year. And what happened was, I would take it with me because I could travel. So I'd take it with me, and then it would do weird stuff. Like it would clump up, and I'd get afraid, and I thought I threw a whole bottle away until I told you, and you went, what? All you had to do was shake it really hard.
Right. You
And
just
it's
have
like,
to.
oh man, that
it-
was a lot of money I just trashed.
Right.
But something happened and I didn't take it one night. And I took it the next night and I realized nothing happened. So then I did it again.
Right.
And I kind of tested it. And I'll tell you, I still can't go more than 3 days. And I start being symptomatic. So it didn't cure me like I thought I was cured. I got a dose of reality. I may die with this. But as long as I take that, and if I have tough days, like if it's really cold and all my muscles are doing this, I will take it every night. I'm not going through any of that anymore.
Sure.
And
So as long as you took a tablespoon for 18 to 20 months every night, and now you're on a tablespoon every other day, basically?
A bottle
So-
lasts me a month, easy.
Okay.
But if I start
Good.
feeling different things, I'm not risking it. I will start taking it every night. I kind of self-do this, but I
Sure.
think it's because I'm free enough. I kind of know what's going on. And
So at a bottle a month, you're at about $3 a day, basically.
yeah, I spend that at the garbage truck.
Right.
Look
At
at
the
me.
lunch
I
truck.
spend a lot of money at the lunch truck. But here's the other thing that I kind of want you to know, that when I take it, I don't always do now. It's almost like I'm ungrateful to some degree, because I'll go, and I'm trying to quit smoking. Okay, I'm not advocating smoking, but I've smoked for a long time. I'll smoke and take it. It doesn't seem, I think early on it would be critical, but
Right.
I'm not
People
going to not
violate
take it.
every one of them, and the protocols are nothing with caffeine, nicotine, no corn syrup, soda pop, aspirin, chocolate,
See, you didn't have all
and
those
juice.
rules in the study.
No, we didn't. We found
We
those
found
things.
those out.
Those things bind the liquid CMO, but people are people, and people have grossly violated every single protocol.
But I
and
suggest anybody that's just starting this,
As
follow the protocol to the T until you have at
Absolutely.
least 2 months of freedom. Then if you want to mess around.
Absolutely.
I
I
did
absolutely
not risk
think the same thing.
I followed the rules, and I have my life back. My biggest fear is that we're all going to get old, and maybe they won't make this stuff anymore or something. And I know for a fact, I believe with all my heart, I was not misdiagnosed. I have it, and it is not going to go away.
Sure.
But I can control it.
So
and
just to recap, you got the fibromyalgia, came down with it in 90?
the
About
accident was
1990?
in 1990, but I didn't start showing symptoms until about 4 months after my car accident.
Okay.
I mean, that I recognized because I was pretty beat up. I might
Sure.
have had them, who knew?
Sure,
You know,
sure.
but I
So then
didn't start
90 to-
complaining about the burning skin.
90 to 2010, you're 30 years. 20 years. 20 years
It makes me old, yeah.
with the fibromyalgia.
So that's a lot of fighting. I
And-
figured about 18 years is a lot of fighting
Yeah.
just to keep my head above water.
Right.
And I'm going to say this, and you can cut it out. But what I found and I understood is I watched that movie on Kevorkian,
Mm-hmm.
and I looked some stuff up, and one of his patients was a fibromyalgia patient.
I'll be darned.
And,
I did not know that.
well, yeah, and I went, I understand that.
Uh-huh.
I get it.
No, that's,
You can't.
believe me, we hear it an awful lot. I wanted to also say, and Renee, you're aware of it, we're starting the Arizona Fibromyalgia and Arthritis Pain Relief Centers. And
Oh, you just said something. Okay, look at my hands.
yes,
I forgot to show you this
Right.
earlier. My mother, by the time she was my grandmother, by the time they were my age, their hands were all like this.
oh, they were
I had a
they had
rheumatic-
swan neck rheumatoid arthritis.
Oh, I don't know what it was, but their hands were all twisted.
Right, they
and-
twisted and the fingers
Yeah, my
folded over
grandmother
here.
ended up in a home. She was so bad in a wheelchair, and my
I'll be
mom
darned.
was really bad. And they said I would have it because I had rheumatic fever, and both my mother had it, and my grandmother had it.
Sure.
And before this, I was in construction. I was a heavy equipment operator. I worked on the ground. I did all that stuff. I
Who
mean,
would
I
know?
was
Who would
yeah,
think
I
it?
know. Who knew? I'm tough, but well, I'm not anymore. But my knees and my fingered
Mm-hmm.
things and my toes and ankles would hurt.
Right.
And look, my hands, and they were kind of going like this. I'm not saying that it made my hand go right. I don't know enough about anything. But I'm saying that I don't have it. My knuckles don't hurt. My knees don't hurt. My ankles, when I wake up, I always laugh at that one commercial where the guy's shuffling.
Right. Right.
I don't shuffle when I first get up until I can get them going. I just get up.
Sure.
And so when you guys say it's rheumatoid arthritis, I believe it.
Mm-hmm.
Because why don't I have it? My mom was crippled up by 62.
Sure. Well, we actually developed the product for arthritis, and it was from the feedback from our clients that we found out that it worked on fibromyalgia, and that's why we initiated the clinical and asked Dr. Arneson and his team over there if they would run the clinical.
So I'm a reverse double benefit. Huh?
Absolutely,
So-
absolutely. Well, Renee, that was fabulous. It was fabulous, and
Well, let me know. I'll go to your clinic because you're doing other things, right? Is
yes.
my understanding. I
and
talked to
absolutely.
Dr.
It's at AZ Fibro Clinics, Fibro Centers, azfibrocenters.com, and you can look it up on the internet or look up liquidcmo.com, and you will find us. And,
See, now I want to be healthy. Before I just didn't care. I just was in so much pain. I just didn't care anymore.
sure.
And my body was my enemy. And I'm telling you, my body was my enemy. It was almost like I would do things and say, take this. Oh, this is like documentation that I'm probably insane. But I would. It was like my body wasn't who I am. And there's some beliefs that that's maybe true. But in the case of my wellness, and now that I don't feel that anymore, now I want to do things because I do want to live. I want to see my grandkids grow up.
Sure.
But I want to do things to get the rest of me okay. I don't want to have heart disease, and I know I have to quit smoking. I know, but I want to do those things now,
Right.
today.
Right.
And from what I understand from the doctor that you have, that you guys are going to offer an awful lot of stuff that's going to help me do that.
We really are. We're going to see if we can get people's health restored, and it's a full mind, body, spirit approach. Very similar to Cancer Centers of America, the same philosophy that you can't treat the human body just by using site-specific toxin or pharmaceuticals, that it's a whole approach to health. And
Well, I know you guys are fun,
Well,
because I can go
thank
in and
you.
give you a hard time and play with you, so
Well,
thank you.
you're welcome, and that's it, signing off. Renee, thank you, and God bless you. Amen.
Same